Hello, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I'm joined today by Janine Regan-Sinclair, and I'm so excited to talk to you. I've gotten to know you over the last couple of days, um, and I was really blown away doing your astro chart. And then the fact that you reached out to me and some messages were coming through, I really started to just look into what is this woman all about. So let me tell you guys about Janine. She is a consciousness architect, a therapist, healer, and author. And she really brings people into the core of creation. And I looked at her chart, and that's like no joke, right? Her expertise is healing, mental health, trauma, and addictions, but she also does a lot of work on the previous life spiritual programming that holds people back and looks into Akashic records. And she also offers property, energy, realignment remotely. Wow, that's so much. And just knowing the importance of bringing this into the world, it's amazing and inspiring to see people like you that just are just covering it on so many multiple facets. So tell us a little bit about your journey and just how this all came together, and
Okay.
so we can get to know you more.
Okay. So the consciousness architect comes from the fact that I was in architecture for 20 years before becoming a therapist and going into healing, and I was teaching workshops as well. And it was 22 years ago I lost my father, and that was a turning point in my life. And that's when I started learning. My clairvoyance that I had as a child came back, and I started learning about healing. And I just knew that it was my destiny to become a healer and go down that road. And it went from there, really. So I studied a lot of different modalities after energy healing, into like hypnotherapy, counseling. I studied a bit of psychology, shaman, shamanism, all sorts of stuff. And I was just wanted to be able to help people on a level of mind, body, and spirit. And I developed my own healing system called Crystal Key Healing, which was bringing diamond energy in to people 20 years ago now. And then that's evolved as I've gone along. So about 3 years ago, 2020, I started working with something I've called the One Portal. And then I really got into astral traveling, and I've written 3 books about astral traveling, my journeys. And eventually I started opening. I was meditating, and I was going to this place where there was these white robed beings with long white beards, and there was this pulsating white light in the middle of this round, like Athenian temple. And I went there 3 days on the go, and just stared at it and just meditated with them. And then eventually I stepped into it. And when I stepped into it, I came out into the void, which is the no field, the no thing. And I asked again, have I died? And I got told, no, you're in the infinite, you're in the void. And I started pulling that energy through the source. So the white light was the source, and started pulling that energy through and meditating with it all the time and bringing it into my body, upgrading my DNA, which I've been doing. I started upgrading DNA probably about 13, 14 years ago now, maybe a bit more than that, and working with that energy. And 3 years ago on Instagram, I started opening the portal, and it's actually the center of the womb of creation. So it's a black and white hole, which was studied by the military, and that secret document was released in 1983. And I started working with that. So I would have an intention for people. They'd have their intention, say, let's clear this today. And I'd open the portal in front of them, and the portal would open through my heart center, and all of this stuff would be cleared out. So basically I'd connected with the core of creation, and was being asked to use this to help heal those people that needed to heal the planets. So I was looking at the grids, really, everyone's grids, everyone's DNA. As you're probably aware, we're the nucleus of our reality. We're the center of our energy field. We're the center of the energy field of the earth, the universe, the multiverse, the cosmos, supercosmos. We're the center of creation. And everything revolves around us. So I started explaining to people about how we've got, you know, all of these trillions and trillions of imprints in our consciousness called the cubes. I call them the cubes of consciousness. Like if you zoom into your energy field, they're like pixels and they're 2D images. So everything we experience gets stored in like a computer system. When we come in, we're born into this reality. It's like being in a simulator. The human body is like a prism that when the light comes through it, it refracts all the colors of the rainbow. And that's what creates our reality. So we are the software in the machine of our world. And I've been sharing this on Instagram and had a lot of epiphanies, you know, sharing a lot of stuff. And then more recently, the more I've worked on myself, the more I've realized that there's so many narratives out there at the moment, different timelines, that people need to choose a timeline and not accept the programs, the predictive programming that's being put into people's consciousness.
Right,
We spoke.
would you agree that consciousness and intent and what people are in relationship with determines the timeline, because it's all about the reality we're creating? And it's just so amazing because we have so many options and people will just go with the tyrannical authority or whatever they're hearing in the news, and how this parasitic system just overlaid on Mother Earth and how that's impacted our DNA and the planetary grid network is just really wild. How far it's gone.
Yeah, it has. And
So
I was seeing different timelines. So you've got, you know, the cyborg one, you've got the transhumanism one, you've got the war one, you've got the religious one, you've got what I call the one, which is the one I'm on, which is the highest good of all in neutrality to escape the duality matrix. And there's about 6 on average different timelines, and all of the stuff that's going out on social media is pulling people, distracting people into timelines, when what's actually happening is the energy coming through the sun is the new frequency that we need to be pulling into our bodies and leveling up, raising our frequency to create the new world, because we are projecting it from our DNA. And all of this other stuff going on is dragging people into rabbit holes that keep them trapped in a mind control, but you know, virtual reality experience. And it going into all of it, even the child trafficking and all of this other stuff, that the storylines that are out there, they're all just programs in the matrix. They're all storylines that we don't have to accept. And the best analogy I've been sharing with people recently is, if you imagine 12 stories apartment block, and the third dimension is level 3 and there's 2 basements, and you're raising people, we've been told to raise our consciousness up to 5D, that this is heaven on earth. It's actually the lowest dimension in the heavenly realms. The heavenly realms go up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They do go up higher.
Feels really low.
It's
No,
not
we
high
can
enough.
tap into it in our consciousness, but it's so hard to witness.
I've been saying to people, like, get yourself up to 7D, because and I want to be careful about the wording I use here, but there's certain off-world beings that are getting blamed for all sorts of things, that have got green scaly skin. They can't go in on a physical level into 7D. Basically, I say to people, you get yourself into 7D, you've got to go, if you're living in this apartment block, every floor you go through, you level up. Every time we've got an equinox or a solstice, we've got the opportunity to level up. And that's when the energy's coming in, and we should be doing our healing work, clearing our karma, our ancestral stuff, our trauma, our addictions, all this kind of thing. And this is what I help people with. But what I say to people is, be very careful about what you're giving your attention to, because of the something called 3-second rule. And you watch it, you name it, 3 seconds, you've sucked it into your consciousness again. And that's the past, present, and future of everything you've watched, because of the mirroring off program that's in the matrix, the fractal. Everything is fractalized. So the morphic field of matter that is the basic foundation of creation, it's the fabric of creation, mirrors off, and those memories are the morphic resonances, and they get passed on. So what we're doing with the One Portal is we're pulling out these memories and changing the programs in the morphic field itself. It's extremely powerful stuff. By connecting people to the void, the source in the first place, so that energy's coming in, and then clearing the other stuff out. So it's like a nice loop of a cleansing loop that's going on. And because of the with the apartment block scenario, I say to people, once you've got into 5, 6, 7, and you're going into these higher areas, you've got to go downstairs, you've got to go down in the elevator to go out and go to the store and mix in the real world. You've got people that are stuck in those lower realms, in the 3D realm, that are still asleep, lining up for whatever's being doled out to them, heavily programmed. And this is without judgment, because it is a mind trap. Television traps people's minds into certain things. And then you've got the 4D, which would be the 4th floor, and you've got all the conspiracy programs in there. But when you're going down to go out and be around these people, it's like saying, come and have a look what's going on in here, come and have a look at this, all this negativity. And people get trapped into going back into it by doing that, and pull it back into their consciousness. And then the prism effect, with the light coming in, it gets projected back into reality. So it's a mind control trap that keeps those old programs going. But we've got the ability to get into our consciousness. I'm just started sharing information in my academy for people to be able to go into the void, to be able to change the core programming in their consciousness, so that the projection and the mirror of the world around us changes, because we're powerful and people don't realize how powerful they are. There's no point in praying outside for somebody else to come and save us. We have to do the work for ourselves, because the projection is our projection of us. We can't piggyback off other people's projections. We have to do the work ourselves. And this is why it's so important to learn meditation or some kind of healing modality, so that people can level up. And I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people. And my healing is evolved. What I'm sharing with people now is evolved again, even in the last few weeks. So people probably are aware about that we're in this 26,000 year cycle. And what actually happens is it's a leap. Like we leapt from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age, to the Iron Age, to the Bronze Age, and now we're going into the Golden Age. Well, the Golden Age is what people call the Christ consciousness. It's the gold ray, which is the healing ray, and it's creative energy, it's creator energy. It's really powerful. And we need to learn to connect, have the higher realms of the source, the male energy coming through the sun, and the female energy coming up from the planet. And that's the unity of the divine masculine and feminine. And from there, we can really produce and create, be the co-creators, and remember who we truly are. People they think they're just these little humans wandering around with jobs and 9-to-5s and so on and so forth. And they don't realize that we are the Godhead. Collectively, we are the Godhead. There isn't a God sitting on the throne outside of us. And all the stuff out there about the dark, they're doing this to us, they're doing that to us. Again, it's all part of the predictive programming. If you believe you're a victim, you're going to take on those storylines, and that's what you're going to be living in your consciousness. But when you bring the light and dark together into the middle, into the one timeline, I like to call it, you're closing that down. You can't eliminate darkness by pushing more love and light, because then you're still in duality. But when you bring the two together, when you come into the middle and be neutral, like these wise sages and people that, gurus out there that have learned that none of that exists. Everything is neutral. It's our perception of what we're seeing based on what we've inherited in our DNA and what we've been taught in school and from our ancestors and families and so on and so forth. That's the projection, but it's not the reality, and it's not carved in stone. We need to get into the middle where our power is and start rewriting the matrix. And that's what I share with people, how to do that.
Yes. It just brings up so much about just just the astrology of seeing things in opposition that really need to come together and be integrated. And I've been talking a lot lately about just the Neptune Pisces house and sign is opposite Virgo, Mercury, Earth. And Neptune's vast, it's the creative imagination, it's just tapping into all possibilities. But if you don't ground it or anchor your dreams and visions into your physiology, and you take in other energies that are not in alignment with all that you could be and co-create, the physical body suffers, because these programs, the body does not feel in tune with, and it's going to create a symptom. But if we, it just like, the earth energies are opposite the water. It's just amazing. In order to create any kind of change in the physicality, we need to dive deep into the unconscious and into the emotionality and into like the core of it all. And then the physicality changes. It's so interesting to see some of that. And something you said just kind of reminded me of it, but
yeah. And the other thing I've been sharing with people, which is important, is the difference between your physical energy and your psychic energy. When we go to bed at night, we astral project. Our spirit body leaves our body so that we can rest. And, we meet up. We probably met up a few nights ago and had a chat about what we were going to do. But what that does is it drains 10% or thereabouts of your psychic energy, because that energy is being used for your astral body to fly. So this is why when people are coming in, if they're having sleepless nights, they're getting up, they're going back to sleep, the astral body's going out again. So that's 20% of your energy being used. You're waking up more tired than you were when you went to bed. And it's really important that people start to practice breathing exercises to build that prana, that chi, that key energy back up in their body, because that energy is your manifesting energy. So there's people working their backsides off and they're not getting anywhere because they haven't got enough of the psychic energy to be using that energy in the bank as a manifesting tool as well. So it's not just manifesting, isn't just about visualizing yourself with this. You've got to feel it. You've got to feel that vibration. You've got to match that vibration. And by doing that, by being in that, you need psychic energy to bring yourself into that frequency bandwidth, and then sending out that energy to draw it in.
Yeah. I mean, if you enter your intuition and you make it a way of life, and you anchor it and ground it, instead of live sort of a contradicting life where you have your spiritual world, your, the things that you really long for and would like to see, but your physical life is completely not holding a container for it, then it's just that duality. And just people are afraid because it's like breaking a bond that you thought was looking out for you, and all that mother father stuff that shows up in the bigger picture. And a lot of unconscious religious programming, even people that don't consider themselves religious, are probably still looping in this stuff in all the past lives. So it's like so much to heal. So it's amazing to talk to you, like taking it all on in this way.
There is a lot to heal. And unfortunately, for the people out there that are following the religious path, or, these dedicated spiritual paths, a lot of it has been tampered with, because the Matrix is a computer program. And, the prediction of the ascension and the end of the world on the 21st of December 2012, going way back, there were implants, I call them like mind maps, put into mind meshes, put into the Matrix to distort and cause problems for people. And I find those as well. And I'm finding an awful lot of the spiritual consciousness, I prefer the word consciousness, light workers and starseeds out there, that are hitting a wall. They're hitting a wall because there's something there that they can't get beyond. And there's different things that it could be. It could be something called the seed fear of enlightenment, where, way back in Atlantean times, we passed over when we died. So there's a fear of that, becoming enlightened. I've come across false reality pods in the Matrix, where people have been guided to go into these astral meeting places And somebody invited me to one once, and this was a massive group of people. I'm talking 6 figures in this group. And when I got there, my internal, I call it my BS-ometer goes off just under my
Yeah.
heart.
Bullshit meter.
And I asked my higher consciousness, I communicate, straight to the source, is this real? And I got told it's a fake reality pod, and I just dissolved it, and the whole thing disappeared. All the people in it, thousands of people, everything just went and became the no thing again. So the light workers, the star seeds, everyone out there that is on this path they're in a position where if they are not fully neutral, then the light and dark are coming in, and they're calling in entities, and they don't know whether they're getting the light one or the dark one because they haven't merged them into neutrality. You have to merge them into neutral and be calling on the neutral one, not just the 100% light one, because the 100% dark one is crafty and they can sneak in and give people false information. And it's just happening so much. And again, it's not judgment. I've tried to help people because I could see this going on, a couple of decades ago.
Right. What would you call a person, though, that might have found that and is not dealing very well with the fact that everything is just so messed up, and almost like you care almost too much to the point where I don't know, it's like, how much do we invest in this reality in order to change it, and how much do we need to walk away? I guess that's a personal choice, but
Yeah.
like, if you put your money into this, it's actually supporting something that you want nothing to do with. And then all the false narratives and, that kind of outer authority thing that just streams through the media, streams through sort of the narrative of life, even though it has its duality, it's always at war and trying to pit everybody against each other. But
yeah, separation. So the way to escape it is to get into meditation and mastering, being in the middle, going into this, into the center of the void, into that space, and letting go of everything else. So it's bringing the light and dark within you together, balancing the male and female within you, and listening to your higher guidance. You can't go up into these higher levels if you've still got addictions or lots of trauma in your system, because addictions attract entities into people's field.
yeah, but
And
often those are people that haven't experienced these higher dimensional energies. So I feel there's a struggle with the ones that have, and it's always there. But in order to survive, you have to almost drop your vibration to just not like attract the madness. And yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
everything that comes to us is coming from our programs. So we're creating it.
Absolutely.
Everything. So once you know that, then you can, whatever's coming at you or happening to you, for example, things like lack with money. If the money stops coming in, it's like, sit down, meditate, ask what part of me is creating this, and what am I being taught here? What is the lesson here? That could be anything from poverty consciousness in your cubes of consciousness. I call all these pixels cubes of consciousness, all these memories and all of these ancestral things we've inherited in our previous lives. All of these things still exist in the field. So it could be that you're being taught to rise above fear and have faith. There's so many different lessons. It could be that there is some kind of field around you because you don't feel you're worthy of it. So there's all these different possibilities, but this is why it's important to get grounded and go within and ask, what part of me is creating this? How do I move through this next layer? And understanding, if you're coming across entities or dark shadows or anything like that, go seek them out with the absolute, not just love in your heart. I'm talking about the highest love, the love that you have for your child, the love that one or God or source would have for you, and that pure love. And when you bring that pure love through your higher heart to anything, it just dissolves. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's the big guy with the red horns out of the Bible. I don't like to say names, but they, you can dissolve them with your love. They can only survive in lower vibrational frequencies. And this is the other thing about love. People are saying it's all about love, but it's not. Just human love is different from pure love of source. Pure love of source is a higher frequency, and it's that pure love of source that is the important one. Just the ordinary love, people say, I love my pizza, I love a car, I love this dress. They use the word all the time, but that's the program of love and fear. It's a duality trap. And when you bring that into the neutral, into the bliss, go through the void, into the bliss, into the actual core of creation, you're hitting pure consciousness. And there is no duality for that pure consciousness. It dissolves everything. And I think that's why people have been led astray a little bit with the word love, because when people use the word love, they think about love in human terms. Generally, they don't think about love in God terms, in that higher frequency. They tend to, use the word, it's used every day, and everyone's got their own perception of it as well. So the vibrational frequency of what they're feeling when they use that word is whatever their perception of love is, whatever they've learned growing up about love. And that will have been affected by their parental relationships, their intimate relationships, what their peers are talking about, what movies they're watching, what books. Everything affects us. Everything goes into our consciousness. Even movies, there's so many predictive programming movies out there all the time going on. People need to be really careful about what they're watching. So I say to people, make the statement that it's my intention not to absorb any of this programming on any level of my being, past, present, and future, before you watch anything. And then you're watching it as the observer and not being programmed with the 3-second rule. Because when we watch movies, we tend to fall into theta brainwave frequency, like we do when we're driving on the freeway, or when you're really chilled out, your brainwave frequency relaxes to theta, and that's a sponge for information to be programmed into your consciousness. So people need to really be aware and take care of their minds, and particularly their children's minds. It's not always safe to think your kids are just safe in the bedroom on a computer. What are they watching on the computer?
Right. There's the exploration and discovery, or just assessing a situation from a place of observation or neutrality. And then there's the mind control, or the drawing a person in and actually shaping their behavior to fit something, right? Because
Yeah.
we've all been exposed to it, right? So how did some end up like this and some end up like that? Like, to me, it was a huge catalyst. I'm like, oh my God, this world is so programmed. And no wonder I say like all the time, because it's Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing how much that stuff has raised us. But when we can look at that though, and like see the bigger picture and how they're trying to take it to the next level, I feel like the mitosis or the bifurcation is like, are you literally going to stay attached to that influencer of the greater world society, or are you going to like find yourself and remember who you are, because that is just dictating to people, just so across the board with everything, all the power structures. And
they have to feel it, and they have to feel it. People have to be ready, and we can't push people to wake up. There's a lot of people that are awake, but there's woke and there's awake, and then there's enlightened. There's big gaps in between. We can't force it. We have to offer and be it. We got to be it. We got to be the bliss. We got to be the pure love. We got to be, forgiving and compassionate, and let go of all of this stuff. So, I say to people about understanding that everything you're seeing in the world is a mirror. You're in a holographic simulator. It's like being in the simulator, and everything you're seeing is a projection of your consciousness into your reality, and all of your ancestral stuff and all of your previous lives. And anything you see or experience that triggers you in any way, makes you angry, makes you frightened, makes you have an opinion, means it's in your DNA. It's in you. So somebody who hasn't got, let's take child trafficking, because it's a big issue at the moment. People that are seeing that, I've met people that call themselves, being involved in activism, and I've asked them, how many children have you actually met that have been through that kind of, ritualistic abuse? And they'll say none. I'm like, why are you fighting for a story that you haven't even met one child that's been in that? So this is another narrative that I believe has been expanded tremendously with predictive programming through social media. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but that's the 3D level. That's that third floor of the apartment block. So when you're going down from your 5, 6, 7 level, you don't have to go and poke your nose in somebody else's door. Just, pass through it. If it's not in your face and it doesn't make you angry, make you scared, you've got an opinion on it, or trigger you in any way, then it's not in your DNA. That's not active in your DNA. It's not down your lineage. Or maybe you've cleared it out and you've moved beyond that. So if people learn about the law of projection, it's one of the most important levels of consciousness, understandings of consciousness that people can take on board, because then you're seeing the program in the matrix. You're going, oh, well, that, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing anger, and that's frustrating me, so I need to get into my programming and clear out my anger and my frustration. And you can do that with the one portal. There's lots of free ones on my Instagram page, and there's some on my YouTube channel as well. There's lots of freebies on there for people. So it's turning people into consciousness architects, so they're consciously aware that they are the architect of their realities.
Yes, it's just brilliant. I love that term. I mean, because that's what it is. We ground and build structure based in the thought forms that we hold within ourselves. And if we're not operating from our intuition or higher mind, we are enabling or creating something that is going to keep us looping, and the thing is, there's so much trickery, like where something seems okay and then you find out it's not. Well, you could look up something about broccoli being the most healing vegetable, and then it also causes cancer, right? So there's a certain point where the insanity of it all, the fact that all these different realities can exist, we got to just find our own truth and almost like crush all those timelines or all those possibilities, because that is a form of mind control to the creative imagination and what it is going to invest itself in as far as beliefs. So we have a lot more influence than we can imagine, but we have to be consistent, because once something becomes a structure, unless the tower comes in, it's very hard to collapse it and rebuild. It's not going to happen overnight.
The one portal can help with that, because it does, it's big, it's powerful, it is the core of creation that you're working with. It's, it is fantastic. So it's like you were saying with my chart last night, that going through my soul journey, I've been hit with some very big, dark experiences as I was moving through, and I just would not give in. I've been doing it for 20 years and I wouldn't give in, but it was mind-blowing. And I understand a lot of light workers and starseeds out there are struggling financially. They're tired, their soul is weary of the journey, they're getting disillusioned with all these new predictive programming stories coming out again, and it's that they're run down. They're run down and they need to rest and gather themselves. And I hope, that the starseeds and the light workers in particular find my page and get some free healing on there and start to, get into this meditation. Do your pranic energy healing, on yourself. Do your pranic breathing on yourself. Get yourself back up, get yourself strong again, and come together. Yeah.
And I'm just reflecting on your chart, and I just pulled it up. 10th house, all this Piscean energy, like healer, speaker, teacher, just like following your heart. And oh wow, your huge heart, you've learned over the course of time that having a huge heart might create like pain, and you're like in this place of mastery over that pain. Go ahead.
the one thing I did realize is when I was in the them and us, they're doing this to us mode, and I've been there, you know, I went down that rabbit hole of the conspiracy stuff for 10 years before realizing it was a trap. Then every time, if I shared something, something wouldn't work out for me. So it's like everything we're giving out, every energy we're giving out, even sharing negative information on social media is a form of gossip. And gossip is not a wise spiritual choice in any way, shape, or form. If we all stopped sharing it and got into our center and got into our no mind, into the moment and meditated together. I mean, you know, I spoke to you last night. I'd like to get 10,000 people at least together in a stadium and do the no mind, you know, get them into the central core and get these programs out, open the portals.
Yeah.
I can open more than one portal at a time as well. I can open multiple portals at a time.
Yeah.
And if we had the right team together, you know, we could rewrite the matrix in a day. It's that easy to do, but everyone's scattered.
Geez. I mean, the true template has been overlaid with reversal grids and frequency fences and scrambled fire codes and the way to overcome it is to push through, you know, like a salmon going upstream, but a little heavier than that. Just bulldozing through like the enormity of all the things that have tried to make us forget.
Oh, I was going to say about the YouTube video that I sent to you with the balancing the male and female, divine masculine, divine feminine. It's the Equinox March 23 one on YouTube for people at home. It's a freebie on there. And it clears powerful frequencies from the earth, like you were saying about certain codes being placed to slow us all down. It takes those codes out. So we're reconstructing or deconstructing the matrix. But Mother Earth then needs to be pulled back into the void, back through the portal into the clear space and detached from it. It's like I see it like a big dark spider web around the planet, like, you know, the grid, and it needs to all be taken apart. You can't just, well, people can do it. They can, if they go into no mind every day, and just when they're in the no mind, like their intention is just to, you know, to heal everything in their consciousness and keep doing it. That's one way of doing it. If you want to live in meditation 24 hours a day, it's not feasible for people to do that. There needs to be a simpler way for people to get from A to B, or else we're going to be doing this for centuries.
Like, we're so multidimensional, multifaceted with all the DNA and genetics that we have from off planet, that what a unique, you know, it's almost like we hold all of it. Do you think that is why there's a lot of attention on the human race, or like how do you process the human potential in comparison with how stupefied it's become?
Well, from what I know of it, the reason humans are so favored by off-world beings is because we've got the God particle in our DNA, and they want a piece of it because it's creative force. And there's a lot of, as you know, entities out there, beings out there that want that power, and they can't get that from, you know, playing with without playing with DNA. They want splicing DNA and hybrids and all that kind of stuff. But we need to switch off all of those programs. One of the biggest problems is the mirroring program in the Matrix, because everything's just getting fractal, mirrored. It's like history repeating itself, because we've gone, the cycle, the 26,000 year cycle goes round, and it's like, here we go, we're hitting this part of the Matrix where war comes up, or where medical experimentation on people comes up, or where famine comes up, massive earthquakes and volcanoes and all this kind of stuff, where you've got two ways of looking at things like that. People saying, oh, they're messing with the weather, they're trying to kill us. And then there's the other aspect of it, is that Mother Earth is a living, breathing entity with chakra system of her own. And if we don't clean her up, through cleaning ourselves up, she's got to clean herself,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's what I kind of redundantly say. The earth responds to us. If we do that within ourselves, then we are part of the clearing of the elementals that surround us. Because I
Yeah,
feel like nature and Mother Earth is an expression of our soul and the health of our journey. Like, how much are we easily programmed? Okay. You might notice all the chemtrails and this and that, or like, just this world that holds one to it. Like, when you realize that you can de-weaponize the weapons by reuniting heaven and earth and getting that template back instead of this
yeah,
duality, like Saturn moon matrix. Because we know and we see in our lives when something's out of balance, the predatory forces that come in.
yeah.
Doesn't excuse the dark though, but without learning from it and going deeper than just the way that society has addressed this, is that wholeness is the protector. And when there was that vulnerability, there might not have been enough protection. So we need those vulnerable times, but to invoke, protection instead of putting ourselves in, difficult places.
Well, when I first got into this, like talking about protection, I used to somebody told me put white light around me. Well, that just attracted the dark to me even more, because I was too shiny. Then I started putting camouflage light around me so that I just blended in with the background. But once I got into moving up, beyond the seventh dimension and into those higher dimensions, none of that worked. It didn't work. And I kept moving forward and asking, how can I stop this coming into my field? And it's like everything that's in your cells, your karma, your ancestral lineage, all of your previous lives as a human, and your soul ancestry, because we've got two ancestral lineages in that respect. Everything in that is projecting into your consciousness. So it's a bit like a never-ending story of trying to keep ourselves pure and clean, and that's not always feasible if you've got families to look after and a job and you drive a car and so on and so forth. So what needs to be done is the masses coming together and more of switching off these programs of this mirroring, this like attracts like, all of these core matrix programs that are keeping the history repeating itself needs to be switched off. History needs to be taken out. Racism needs to be taken out. And, said this one portal can take racism out of people's DNA. We've got to get it out of the DNA.
Society should master itself enough to not reinsert a programming or an experience that keeps a child looping. It's like you're born fresh. Babies are just like, you have a chance to not be indoctrinated into, oh, you should be hating yourself because you're white, or you're in a masculine body, you should be a feminine, and get surgery. Like, how about exploring the realms of something of a much bigger picture? And
and it can take war out as well, and all the war frequencies out of the matrix and out of us. I mean, you said last night when you were doing my reading about, the capability of what I can do with this as a facilitator of this one portal is phenomenal. And everything was thrown at me to try and stop me get into it. But I wouldn't give in because I just knew how important it was. And it's a mission. It's a vocation. It's not a job for me.
when you embody it, you take it everywhere you go, right? The awakening process seems like such a wonderful thing that I'm a little surprised that people aren't like having that breakthrough and realizing that, in light of the fact that there's a lot of dark forces that are working against us, the minute you cut the relationship with it, you have so much more to celebrate than you can possibly imagine. It's just retraining the brain to not look outside of the self for reward or validation, or I did this or that I was told to do, and just see the results of something much deeper. And that's like a really difficult transition for humanity right now. So
It
when you
is, yeah.
look at it as a whole and the energy work you do, like, what do you feel about the human trajectory? Bifurcation, we're just going to heal this and transmute it, and just we're going to create our own reality, which is a lot of what you're saying, which I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we do. And I think there's a lot of people I certainly know that, you know, in my academy, there's a lot of very enlightened people in there, and they've been working on their DNA with me for 3 years. And, you know, anything from, you know, 1 to 3 lives a week I was doing. And we don't need the, you know, that many people anymore, because when somebody does get into those higher levels, the seventh, eighth, ninth dimensional beings of, you know, human beings, they counterbalance hundreds of thousands or millions of people in the third dimensional level. So
Absolutely. Yeah, the smallest of groups and numbers. It's about quality, not quantity, right?
exactly,
And when the quantity or the quality begins to grow into quantity, that's a beautiful thing. But the potency of just two people just in love, like soulmates, just
yeah,
hierogamic union, that changes the whole world. So
yeah,
the small numbers of people that come together that are like-minded, I mean, I feel we're rebuilding the template. It's just, I
yeah.
feel we're not where we should be. And that's a terrible thought form that I have. Do you feel that in this ascension window period that, yeah, no, this all had to play out? Like, I struggle with the, are you serious? This really had to manifest on the planet? I mean, what are your
I
thoughts?
think we're all where we need to be. I think, you know, I personally, I see a lot of changes, and I'm hearing a lot, you know, a lot of changes. But I'm also, you know, I've got some friends that tell me what's going on in the other timelines. The important thing is to just be present and you know, be happy, be content as things come into your life. Start, you know, start to work on it, meditate, find out what's the root cause of this, you know, what part of my consciousness is creating this, and step out of victimhood or blame, or even seeing them as dark, because they're just a mirror of our own pollution, our own darkness. And we've all got shadows. There's no, you know, there's no getting away from that. We've all had past lives, where previous lives, sorry, because there's no such thing as the past, where we've been bad and we've been good, and we've been light and we've been dark, and we've been male and we've been female, and we've been black and we've been white, and we've been all of these
Well,
things.
that is the grand reunion of awakening, people realizing that. I mean, most of the amnesia, we might be born not having like it all figured out, but along the way, in the face of something that is a distortion, it's amazing how the power of truth doesn't emerge very quickly for some people. But it's the tragedies that humble a person to be able to reflect. That's why Pluto is about death, but it's about rebirth and transformation. It's like whatever you were holding on to, you want to let it go. And if the consciousness isn't ready for it, maybe the physical body goes to just reset and have a life review. But it's just amazing. I don't know. We could like talk forever.
I'm optimistic about what's going on the planet. I'm hoping that, you know, this goes out to light workers and star seeds out there that start to realize and take responsibility. If you start, get into the root of what you start, find the one portal, ask for, you know, what's holding you back to be cleared into the portal. Learn that meditation. It's simple, it's easy, and once you learn it, you can do it yourself. I don't want to be somebody's guru. I'm here to facilitate so that people can access this portal. I was asked to open it, to bring it in, and to start sharing it with people. And that's what I've been doing now. The healing has evolved. What I was teaching a year ago has evolved again this year. And I'll continue to evolve as I expand, because that's what it's about. But I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for people. And I know Earth is a school for learning, but there's some hard knocks on this planet for people. And I don't agree with the core programming that it needs to be that difficult.
When you're standing on the outside and you see what a facade it is, it's like
Mhm.
hard to.
But when you understand, that's why I went and studied psychology. When you understand, when I finished my psychology course, my lecturer said to me, "Are you going into advertising? That says a lot." And I said, "No." Um, I don't judge people anymore in that respect of them and us, or, you know, and it kind of makes me recoil a little bit when people call them sheeple. It just feels a bit mean when they're being programmed by a system, and the system is set up to keep mom and dad working now because they need to, lots of money coming in. They come home, they're exhausted.
Oh my gosh, it's a huge part of my book. Like, why call them sheeple? Like, I have more compassion with the hard work, the ethics, the things that have shaped them to be in service to really beautiful things, just like people going out to war, even though
Yeah.
much of it is engineered. That passion or that purpose that that person held, I feel, lives beyond, being used for it, where a kid's passionate, like, I want to heal people and this and that. And all of a sudden they're thrust into the educational system of, this is how, we want you to be.
This is what people need to understand. It's not them doing this to us. To step out of victimhood, step into your power by understanding that what is coming at you is coming at you because you created it. You're doing it to you. There's no them doing it to you. The one thing I think people need to realize is that everyone's seeing the world through their own eyes. So everyone's got their own perception. And that's why it's important to work on your perception, not be worrying about what, why can't they see what I'm seeing? Well, they're not seeing it because they're
Not
seeing
even
it.
about that. I don't know what it is. I think it's just, I'm ready to, and I know you're talking more like to everybody listening. But at the same time, like, the willingness to be in the human realm to change it is to accept a human vessel that has damaged DNA, dumbed down DNA. So you could be coming from like some star system. And I have a lot of clients like this, and I know you do too, that come in and it's like the heavy density, the things we have to take seriously. But if it doesn't include levity, and this is what I love about what you do, because you begin to unpack the programmings of one's family. You could be the biggest rebel. It doesn't mean you've cleared the ancestral fuckery in your system, right? Like, I was the
Exactly.
hugest rebel, and I can't believe that I loop in some things where I'm like, so going that deep, is the breakthrough of humanity, that this is the 5D. It's soul-centered, it's soul conscious. And
Yeah.
and people are so afraid to let go of their persona to dig deep, and they are rewarded for acting out these different personas unless it goes too far. But yet the traffickers and the Satanists are still doing worse crimes behind the scenes. I mean, it's just like, because the judicial system and everything else has been infiltrated. It's so much to heal. But yeah.
But the core program of that is religious beliefs. Trafficking, for example, if you took out religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs from everyone's DNA, or even from a good group of people, then the projection, those entities that would not exist anymore because they're not a core program.
But it's been so infested in our cultures that it's just not like about the individual. It's about like the very structures of our cities, the way like life functions.
The thing is, Laura, when you change your consciousness, so if you take these things out, like I'm talking about with the one portal, before you do the healing, let's suggest that you're walking down the street and a lot of the houses in that street are all shabby and the gardens are a mess and no one clips the lawn and so on. And then a few weeks later, after you've done a big healing session on yourself, or cleared ancestral stuff out yourself, or cleared judgment out of yourself, you walk down that street and the house has been painted and the garden, the grass is being cut and somebody's planted flowers. That's how your reality changes. It's as simple as that. You created a new house down the street with a new garden from your consciousness because of the refraction of the light coming through and the rainbow pixels that create the illusionary reality that we experience. People need to understand that.
But when we inhabit a physical vessel like a house, it's sort of like when we come in and inhabit our physical vessel, which is a structure. It's got a skeletal system. And when one can see how quickly that can be taken, I just feel, isn't that enough to just live in love and gratitude and realize the priorities? Just talking to you and just knowing that so many like you are in your professional field, you're doing what you're doing, and it's just a matter of people like turning their energy into that direction and embracing it. I just feel that trauma is such a projection on somebody's self-esteem, you know, where they're afraid to trust again. So they
Hmm.
keep expecting something shitty, or I mean, there's so many factors to this greater healing process. And so people like you that bring out the transparency of it all on a really deep level is just, you know, so key.
Yeah, I'm using the
And
one portal to heal people's trauma and addictions, and it, you know, it pulls out the core program, it pulls out the entities, it pulls out, you know, all of these things that are keeping people trapped in that. And it's ancestral stuff as well. People can have issues in this lifetime that they don't even know where it's come from. People can be born with it in their DNA active. So they're going to become an addict no matter what their parents were like, or, you know, whether they were rich or poor. It's genetic, because that program is switched on in their DNA. And some people it's not switched on. So the one portal helps people rewrite their core programming, and that's what's so amazing about it.
yeah, I mean, it's just coming back to the self, the vulnerability of being born as a baby, you know, just having everything coming at a person. I mean, you know, that's so much. And the beauty of, I feel, our life experience is to see everything that is not in alignment with our physical bodies, instead of accepting the human condition to just be a diseased and like stay away from each other kind of race. That, you know, we realize like we've been kind of punked. You know, it doesn't mean like it's funny, but it's funny. Okay, that makes sense. And your chart makes sense. It's like, it's one of the most, I don't want to gauge it, but you have a triangle of energies. There's grand trines, right? And then there's rectangles. And the rectangles hit 4 points of the chart. It could just be 4 planets, you know, in all 4 quadrants. But you know, when these stelliums of planets come together, then you got a bigger grouping, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 planets all in communication with each other. And it's not about the numbers either. And it includes the Chiron asteroid, the wounded healer. And what's amazing is it seems like you went through a huge heart tragedy and entered the zone of source love creation. Like there might have been like some huge catalyst where you're like, that was enough to blast you into this. And then you integrated it so much and manifested it in physical reality. So in seeing your chart again, I mean, I know we talked last night, it's just pretty incredible because I have a very afflicted Pluto Venus right now. Why did I, you know what's really amazing? You're like super strong warrior spirit that has blasted through so many distortions, and the synchronicities will make sure of it. It's like you must have surrendered at, you know, some point for those forces to be able to express themselves through, because your Mars is completely in agreement to all the initiatory forces, which I always consider when I look at a chart like one of the most amazing like things, because very often, you know, the Mars energy will just go off on its own tangent and just be that groom person and just comply. But your Mars energy is connected to the initiatory planets and mass healing, bringing something back that the world truly needs. And there's that greater conversation in yourself because you've achieved this, so you're able to teach it. So I have to say, after looking at her chart, you know, there's kind of teachers that need to be in the world.
Thank
No,
you.
it's like I could explain it better. But yeah, your North Node, it shows how threatening the deep state and dark forces have been with you. And you just learn like martial arts and like all the ways to override the lower matrix energies to not let it even touch you in this life. You know, even if it did temporarily, it was just a reminder that, yeah,
Mhm.
you're here to kick ass and connect with this huge level of healing. Yeah. So it's cool to look back at your chart. And I know we should probably close the interview. This is the kind of chart that I want to do a share screen of, but maybe not tonight. It's just that like freaking awesome. And it would be so cool if that was more on our resumes, right?
Yeah, it would.
Or a way for doctors and, you know, people in this field to understand one another. So what did we not cover in our conversation that you want to share with everybody? I know you've got something huge to connect people on.
The equinox is coming up on the 22nd of September. So there's a big shift. When there's an equinox and a solstice, I always put a big healing free on YouTube for people and on my website. And if people want to go to my website, it's JanineRegan-Sinclair.com, and the Regan is Regan. And there's lots of stuff on there, from like books and programs, DNA upgrades, video courses for empowering women, for astral traveling, Akashic records, animal communication. There's lots of stuff on there for people if they're interested in going and checking that out. And I do one-to-ones, and I do Akashic readings and healings, and also do realigning the energy grids in people's property as well, amongst other things. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. Thanks very much for having me.
Oh,
Interviewing
it's
me.
incredible
Enjoyed it.
to spend this time with you. I knew this was going to be like really huge. Thank you for reaching out to me and giving me the love and support that, yeah, I must be really sending out signals to the universe, because it means so much to me. Especially when it feels safe, right? But not so much. I mean, obviously I put out interviews, but just letting you into my world as far as like seeing the kind of energy work you do and seeing your chart, you know, I can safely say, you know, there is like that vibration of unconditional love and not some kind of priority that keeps an imbalance alive with somebody like you. So really appreciate you being with me tonight. And I never ask my guests this, but if you were to name this show, what would you want to call it? So I don't have to text you. And it's not the reason, but
I would just say that, call it the One Portal.
I will do that.
Yeah. It's people, need to realize that I'm the facilitator of the One Portal. I don't do the healing, I facilitate it. All I've done is cleared my energetic bodies enough to be able to allow stuff to pass through me.
Well, it's like land in like a home or a location. It's like if that place is, people will come over and visit it. It's not yours, but it is yours. It's what you've invested your attention and energy on. Only like getting to the core truth of who you are. So the physical realm reflects it. So it just ends up being like this huge inspiration and activation to people. And that's to me the greatest kind of healing, where a person is just like so embodied in it, and structures around them and the things that they built really hold space for that, while the person experiencing it can just reflect on how much our thoughts and our beliefs about ourselves, about this world, create our reality. Reality is not fixed, it's fluid, just like there's fixed sign. Leo's a fixed sign, but yet it's one of the most creative. Because I'm not doing a very good job trying to close the show. I just love talking to you. I could talk to you for hours.
Well, we'll get together when you get back from your trip.
Yeah.
Maybe when you're away.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for interviewing me, Laura. It's been great.
Absolutely. Well, what are your final thoughts? And
my final thoughts for people is to remember who you are. You're all the God particle. Every single one of you. You're powerful. You're not just a little human being. You're a massive spiritual being connected to everything that exists, and you've got all of it in your DNA. And people like myself, I don't even like to use the word teachers. We're here to remind you that you know everything. It's all inside you. It's all there. It's just about waking it up and remembering. and stepping into your power with
Oh,
pure
totally.
love. Yeah.
And that's the thing with your Saturn, which represents teacher, but it's such the higher vibration of it, where it's the authority of what it means to be sovereign and in self mastery, which is, Saturn used to be a sun, and that restoration of like a person that can jump into the higher vibration of, that kind of energy, that's another thing about your chart. So when I described you, or, your bio, I mean, I feel that way about my bio. It's like, I'm none of these labels. It's just in this human realm, it just filters through these avenues. But yeah, your teacher energy, I just wanted to point out, is fully connected into like the fullness of this multidimensional experience that we're in, because there's grounding cords I'm noticing with all the multi dimensions. It's not just like tapping into it, it's like there's anchor points and agreements to manifest ways to make that available. And it looks like you're stepping back into Gemini throat chakra in the 12th house, where either there was an attack energy to not let you like speak, which probably is like in the mix, but more so the need to step away in certain times of history that you just knew like this is not going to go anywhere. It's just like, why even bother? I'm just going to go and like sanctity and just direct connect and build the muscles of the ancient origins of like knowing everything about the universe and how it really works, just to protect yourself from the like insanity. Your chart really shows that you're returning to that feeling of being able to communicate about it.
Yeah.
Your South Node's in the 6th house in Sagittarius, so that's like higher dimensional earth energies. The Virgo energy, having all the initiatory planets, is pretty incredible. I've done tons of readings where people have that generational like combo, but I have to say, it's opposite your Sun, Mercury, Saturn, Chiron, and Neptune, Moon, which means that you're resetting the energy of these structures, understanding that our creative imagination and our belief systems and the things that we attach ourselves to are either in alignment with our truth and authenticity or are a part of the awakening because we put it all out on the table, or it's an inversion and a distortion that people are holding within themselves to kind of act out like an actor, but they're not actors. So I just need to close this, but I just looking at your charts, like you pierce all that. Just people being in your presence, of course you're gonna make this more available to people, but I just have to say that, yeah, that's some really intense energy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's just having 4 planets on the midheaven and the 10th house. It's just wild. It's like how much you've been stopped in the past, I guess I'm just kind of looking at. You hold the soul codes and energies of somebody that was just like stopped and completely like almost like annihilated out of the picture because it was so threatening to what this planet's trajectory wants for humans. And what's wild is just to see that in spite of all that and those potential memories, your spiritual truth, your heart, your greater mission like overrides all of that. And so when you do your healing sessions, it's like you've probably been the best person to do it to you, because it just seems like there was a massive attack on you just looking at your chart, that your greater soul journey is here to retrieve by bringing expression to it. I don't know. I mean, looking at your chart, I don't know if it still exists, that you have to work so much in the multidimensional that certain beings or ancestral energies are like coming at you for doing what you're doing. Like they did not want you to be the person you are. Do you have to combat that, or is that pretty much clear in your life?
It's pretty much clear now. I picked a card today, and it came up that I'm stepping into my destiny now. So, and I think you're part of it, Laura.
Awesome. Well, I'm feeling more of that with so many people that I'm meeting. And, you know, the destiny has always been there. And I can say that about like many people. It's just there's some bleed overs from past lives where it will fuel a person to accomplish certain things, to achieve like a greater mission or goal. And then you know, there's just, you know, some lingering things that would actually compromise the body if it weren't willing to tap into the consciousness of it. That's why I love talking to you, because and two of the other interviews I did today, and this like really just takes it to the next level, how much we are more in charge of our reality than we can imagine. It's just these manipulative tactics that like hook us in, that
yeah,
it's just wild, because it looks like, you know, you were put through some, you know, stuff as a warrior spirit that's like, okay, you know, I'm gonna prove it wrong, I'm gonna go through it, I'm gonna like, and just unearth like just all this incredibleness. You know, it's just a force that's riding the waves of like true ascension energy. That, so I don't often do interviews with people where I look at their chart. So I've been a little bit like, because I looked at it last night and I'm just sort of diving into it. I'm just like, whoa, it's like really immense. But it's so beautiful to be in your presence. You are like the real deal of like really bringing in some very important stuff and facilitating like massive activations and healing. It's like there's just, you know, this is, yeah, one of those kind of charts. And the fact that you've been holding it so strong without losing any piece of it, and coming back into this physical vessel able to do what you do, you know, is incredibly strong. It seemed like if you were in the human incarnations that you would have overcome something that doctors said, oh, you'll never walk again. And you're like, guess what? You know, that kind of energy when it comes to possible physical incarnations. But it seems like you've needed to contend with a lot of galactic wars. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents of your astro chart. I know we got to go.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for all you do. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
See you again soon.